Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another movie review in a few 10 minutes or less. This time, we're talking about Bunker. Not The Bunker, because if you Google that, that's a different movie. This is just Bunker.
Just plain old Bunker.
Plain old is not how I would describe the movie. It's a World War I movie where some Allied forces get trapped in this obviously underground bunker, and along with them, they find down there already captured, or I guess you could say, German soldier. And the nice thing about the movie, Dennis, no recognizable actors, at least to me. So I wasn't distracted by going, oh, I liked him when he was in this or this. So I always think that's cool because you really can look at these actors like, yeah, they're that's the people. It almost pulls you into the movie more because you're not distracted.
Yeah, so this this movie takes place in no man's land, which were the miles and miles of trenches that the German and British forces were occupying, barely ever gaining any ground. Horrible conditions. Most of the World War I movies are going to center around this area. Now, this movie opens up with a little bit of a homage to the World War One, the old type war movies, which was kind of neat. It had that Bonanza feel a little bit, but it was like the World War One maps, and it had the music. And I'm like, oh, this definitely is already going to feel like a B movie. You could just tell.
Yeah.
So it didn't have a big budget, but immediately it brought this really nice feeling of, oh, okay, so they're going to do a nice job with that. So we get out of the credits, and then we get introduced to the characters. Um, Patrick Multane plays Officer Lieutenant Turner, and he is a really uptight and a very strict British officer
Yeah.
who gets a couple of Americans that wind up joining his group as replacements.
And uh, Patrick Moulton at first, I I was like, okay, I don't mind this guy. But as the movie goes on, once they get stuck in this bunker, obviously this is supposed to be a horror movie. Now, I wasn't scared really at all. I'd call it even more of a thriller than a horror movie. Anyhow, when they get stuck down there, a lot of what happens is paranoia sets in amongst everybody. But this guy, Patrick Moulton, was really pushing into the okay, dude, you don't need to overact it that much category. And definitely as the movie went on, and I'm not even saying it's like, well, maybe it's because he's being more paranoid, so it's ratcheting him up. I don't think I didn't get that. I just got more
So
overacting.
Patrick Multane, he was hit or miss throughout the movie, and the reason is I didn't
Inconsistent.
think his acting was very consistent. He's
Right.
got this British accent that was always there, but in different degrees. That's what it felt like. And at times he felt like Captain Kirk from the original Star Trek, where he just went way over the top for acting in certain parts. And he was very much slow and methodical when he tried talking. There were scenes where it really worked well, and there were scenes where it didn't. But all in all, we get introduced to Eddie Ramos, who plays Private Guerrera, and he was pretty much the main character once you start getting into it. I really
Right.
enjoyed his character Quinn Morin as Private Lewis. He was this cowardly little British guy, and the British kind of formed their little, allegiance, and um, they had Julian Fadir, who was Private Baker, and then Corporal Walker was Adriano Gatto. So the cast, are all different. Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses in terms of being part of the company and what they did. Um, the horror aspect is what I figured this was going to be a lot more about. And the special effects for when they did show it, I give credit. I enjoyed it. We realized
There
very
were a
quickly it was
couple
a budget.
there were a couple special effects to me that almost looked like stop motion animation.
Like which parts?
Yeah, I mean, we don't care. I mean, there might be some spoilers. Remember the little tendrils that came up out? There
Oh
was
yeah. No, I
that,
already put this is a spoiler review.
oh, okay. That looked like stop motion to me because it was so disjointed as they came up and out, you know? Um, just so everybody, this movie opened last weekend and to date has made $70,000. The Patrick Moulton actor, I just looked him up more on IMDb. He has this is his only credit. He is now. This actually does surprise me because I thought his accent was pretty good. He's actually native Californian,
Ha!
and he lives in Kansas now. So his credits were this movie and a play in New York, and that's it. So who knows what the deal is? This felt like a this definitely when the movie was over, I looked at Dennis and I said, "Did we just see a student film? Did we just get punked?" And the other thing is the movie started, I made sure to make a note of this, at 4:35. That was after the trailers and all the crap. The movie started boom 4:35. At 5:38, I looked at my watch and thought to myself, I could go get something to eat right now and be fine with seeing this much of the movie. But no, I had to stick it out because I wanted answers. Well, it's safe to say none were given.
And that's the problem. This movie had a great premise and a great opportunity behind it. It's dealing with solitude. They get into the German bunker, they go to take it over, they're gone. The door was slammed shut from the outside, which means they were trapping something in. Therefore, as a trope, you got to go in there, which is always a bad idea, but that's how you get your movie. So once they go walking down in there and a shell comes, blows up the place, and basically traps them in, seals off the entrance. And now this is where the opportunity was to really start getting paranoia. They're by themselves. They have really no contact other than a box where they can communicate to the outside world where they said they were going to come and rescue them.
And and hold on, we mentioned the German soldier. So when they see this guy, he is literally on basically a cross, crucified. He's tied around the waist, but through each hand, not are knives, but long ass swords. So this guy's up there. They think he's dead. You knew as soon as the one dude got real close to him, it was going to be that moment where the guy's not dead, and he's like, "Oh, there's people here now." So they pull this guy down. They bandage his hands and stuff, and take care as much as they can his other wounds. Now, this actor I thought was intriguing just because of his look.
Yeah.
Um, big, not big brow, like a really big brow on the guy. Um, and he's he's a prisoner, but they don't tie him up. They don't do anything. They just let this dude walk around freely. They want to dig themselves out. So the lieutenant's like, you two take him and go start digging. And even when they're not digging, this German dude that is their prisoner, they just let walk around nonchalantly or whatever. And other thing too is the dude had swords through his hands. That is not pain you get over quickly, I would
Yes,
think.
he had swords in his hands and he was wrapped around with barbed wire up
Barbed
there.
wire.
And you know that
He's
that,
he's
that became a trope in this movie was everybody started getting injured. There were parasites down there cutting off pieces, and these guys were getting shot or stabbed. And it was like a scene later. Oh, here we go. Everybody's
and
back.
well, that's the
Like
point.
a superhero movie.
That's the point. He's digging, and you're like putting pressure, digging in his hands, and the dude's like, "Yeah, I know. They were just ran through like an hour ago
Yeah,
with
big
swords,
swords too. Big swords.
big
And
swords."
so, there were a lot of inconsistency. Now, the horror aspect of it, you had parasites, you started finding out there's something otherworldly that's down in there. And it's like the god of war type of thing is invading you, and it requires conflict. So all of this evil stuff, there's ooze dripping down into things that you drink, all the food spoiled. There was some really cool horror aspects and some disgustingness to it. And the problem is, this movie couldn't figure out if it wanted to be a war movie or a horror movie, because if you wanted it to be a horror movie, it didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
It had aspects that were really neat. If you wanted to be a war movie, it was too tedious to be an effective World War One movie.
Well, and the other thing too is it was inconsistent with stuff like the first guy that dies that goes he basically, like Dennis said, parasite, right? Gets infected with this parasite. He he starts mentally kind of losing it and starts cutting himself, whatever, right? And so they restrain him. Well, then somehow he's able to get up and he tries attacking the other people. And of course, they're able to subdue him. And then he starts coughing up this white, milky stuff. And then from there, this like parasite like thing he coughs up. And for some reason, while it's halfway out of his mouth, one of the medic guy, Santiago, whatever his name was, is like, I'm going to go help get that thing out of his mouth, and just grabs onto it and pulls it out. And I'm like, I'm not saying you shouldn't help your fellow man in that situation, but I'm also not like thinking I should grab that thing barehanded either, when it's literally got into this guy somehow and now it's coming out that way. But
Yeah,
they never really touch back on that again. They just
and
kind of
that is the
move on.
problem with this movie. There are a number of things that were cool ideas. So they start having a couple of dream sequences, where he's going into it, and you start doing your mindscape kind of thing, which is a cool idea that you could go into. But at some point, there has to be a payoff at the end when you're doing this. So as you're walking through your dreamscape and seeing this, there's got to be a payoff at the end of the film.
It
There's
was
not for any of them.
It was right for any of them. It was like, oh, here's a cool setup, no payoff. Here's another setup, no payoff. The German dude was having memories. It looked like, so two flashbacks when he was a little kid, and he's walking somewhere as this little kid in these two flashbacks, and they never paid it off,
Nope.
never. And it was just like it. It was so unsatisfying because of that. Like if they would have answered the questions and paid the stuff off, that would have definitely helped. I'm not saying it would have saved the movie, but it would have helped.
It
But
it would have. It would have. I agree. And you know, the movie, it had its fun moments. It had its really cool, the special effects for what they were. This was low budget. It took place basically in the trench, so it
yep,
was a very small stage set that they had to worry about. And overall, the presentation itself was good for being low budget. I thought, for what they had for a small amount of money, they did the most that they could with it. But man, if you would have just closed out the story, answered some questions, or at least, in a good horror movie, they answered questions but then reopened the door for something later. They didn't do that. They just oh, that's cool. The guy in the mask, all of a sudden you see there's little glinty tinks of the eye.
They never paid that
And I was
off.
like, oh my God, I can't wait to find out what that is. Oh, it never gets answered. It just
No,
never
and they
gets
even
answered.
cut back because in what Dennis is talking about, there's basically a small like type tunnel area where uh the previous inhabitants were pitching bodies because they couldn't bury him or whatever, right? So, like Dennis said, there's this dude sitting straight up and he's got a gas mask on, and apparently he's dead, but for some reason he's propped up that way. And they set up this thing where his eyes glint and then kind of glow a little through the gas mask. And you're like, oh, that's cool. And then you never see him again. But when they go back to that area, the dude's not even there anymore.
Yeah, it's digging. They were digging, and I'm like, where's the guy that was just
Right.
there?
And they
So then
don't,
you're thinking he's lurking, something's going to happen, and just never
just
comes back
nothing,
to it.
just nothing.
Yep. So
So,
this movie lacks because it just doesn't answer. And then the main character at the end, they finally, a couple of them get rescued, and then Private Segura is like out, and the other soldiers that find him are like, come with us, and he's like, no, there's one more down there. Instead of saying, hey guys, there's one guy down there, he's a German prisoner, we need to go down and get him. He's already wounded, can barely move, almost dead anyway, and saying, hey, we need to go down and try and help me get him. He just says, no, you go ahead, I'm going to go back down. And he goes down there, and I'm like, okay, now you've become a totally stupid character.
right.
And I'm like, well, he's going to die, and this will be the end of the movie. There it is.
Yep. All right. CGC this puppy.
Um, it had its moments of some fun, some nostalgia to it. There were aspects that I liked about it. The story really, the fact that they couldn't close it really knocked it down for me. I'm giving this a 4.5 out of 10 on the CGC grading because yeah, it would have got better if they would have just answered it. So not impressed. I wish they would have.
If this came out 70 years ago in the 50s, it would be a great B movie in black and white. But no, Dennis, I am surprised you gave it such a high grade. I'm giving it a 2.5. Honestly, there were multiple times. If it was just me, I would have been like, yeah, I'm out of here. But, we had to do our due diligence and stick through it. So I did. But yeah, 2.5.
Two
This
point.
movie was not great. If you're dying to see it, which I can't imagine, wait for it to come on some TV, Netflix, whatever, and watch it that way.
Yeah,
I
this
mean,
definitely
honestly, I'd
was
love to
not
see what
worth the
other people
money.
think of it in the comments, but I
Yeah, this
just can't
definitely was
recommend
not
wasting
worth the
money to
full
go
price
see
of
it.
admission. And
Exactly.
the Rotten Tomatoes, the critics gave it a 29, and the audience is giving it a 40.
So
So,
look at that. That's us. I
yep,
gave it a 2.5, round up 29.30. You gave it a 4,
yep,
4.5.
yep. So all in all, it is what it is. I mean, we did want to see Creed. We couldn't get in; it was full. So we saw this, and well, I hope Creed's better.
That's right. That's your movie review in a few. And of course, Kor-Drath, The Reckoning. We are now at 1,243 backers. Thank you, everybody. We're climbing up the chart, $76,220. Once we hit 80,000, we unlock the next stretch goal, which is, I'm going to show it, the Lilith character card, playable character, another playable character. You're already getting Adriana and Kor-Drath just like this. And the nice thing is, we're getting there. We're close. Dennis, you might have to do math. $76,220. Here we're at 2,852 on Kickstarter. How far away are we from uh, $80,000? And guys, that's just it. We're crowdfunding on both platforms because some people like Indiegogo, some like Kickstarter, some like them both. It's your choice. We combine the total, and that's when the stretch goal gets unlocked.
Nice. We are $928.
928 away from unlocking that next stretch goal, everybody. Go check it out. Kor-Drath is the story of Kor-Drath from the Red Lions tribe, his sorceress slash girlfriend Adriana from the Black Eagles tribe. They were out doing something for Kor-Drath's tribe. They come back. His whole tribe is slaughtered. They don't know who did it. They need to find out who did it, who sent, who orchestrated this plan, and why. What is the bigger picture? The Necronite, that's the guy. What is he after? Well, Kor-Drath and Adriana need to find out. A reckoning will happen. You can go to Kor-Drath.com. All these links are in the description below. Check out more stuff from the campaign. You can read the first 8 pages here on the campaign, or go to Kor-Drath.com so you can see these images even bigger, get a sense of the story, and we are so excited about this. Look at some of these great covers. We're so excited about this. Oh, Bud Root doing a Lilith cover. That we are even doing a game. If you like role-playing games, you can get Mayhem in the Miramidor Mountains that Dennis is creating. Isn't that right, big guy?
That's right. Read the book, play the game, expand your knowledge of it. They go hand in hand. It'll be great. As after you read the book, you're playing the game. You get a better understanding of the tribes. You get introduced to more, and you get to fill in some of the holes in the world that you just can't always fit into a book. So this is a great companion piece, regardless if you role play or you just want to know more about the world.
There you go, guys. This has been your movie review in a little more than a few. We had a lot to say about this one. Thanks for joining us. Next week, we'll be back with another one. It's, we don't know. There's a few options. We'll keep it tight-lipped for now that we have, but we'll drop it. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you guys next time.
Live long and prosper.
Oh, yeah.